So here lately I've been working on encapsulating the motor box on the inside. I just finished the second coat all on the inside, and then I did these sides also, second coat. And so it's takes a while to get it all in all the nooks and crannies and everything. And I use System 3 silver tip epoxy for this. Again, it's the same epoxy that I use for fiberglassing. And I use a slow hardener because it gives more time to, gives more working time. And I can see I've got some running going on there, but that's okay. You watched other videos of mine talking about encapsulating and even epoxying, but encapsulating, this is not the time to skimp. You want to just slobber it all in there. And if there are some runs, I mean, it doesn't hurt to take care of those, but you don't want to skimp. And I've done 2 coats, and I recommend that. Some people do 3 when they encapsulate, but 2 is enough, in my opinion, for most things. Now, in the hull, I mean, it was quite a while ago when I encapsulated the interior, and I actually did, for the bottom of the boat, I did more. I used CPS and multiple coats of that, and multiple coats of this encapsulated epoxy. Now on the bottom, actual bottom between, I think roughly 2 feet on either side of the keel and the inside of my boat, I actually did 3 coats of this. But anyway, for most stuff, 2 coats is good. And one thing I did do, can't really see it, I made some thickened epoxy because I had some gaps between the plywood and this wood here along this edge, and along this edge you can't really see it too well. You can see a little bit of thickened epoxy. It's that lighter brown. I did darken it. The reason I had that is when I built these, I couldn't clamp the way I did. I built them flat on the floor. I wanted to be flat, so I didn't have a good way to clamp anything. And so I did get a little bit of some gaps in some of the plywood, not all of it. Because normally you want to clamp, not too much, but just enough. But I used weights when I built these side panels on the floor to help sort of do some kind of clamping, and it worked okay, but not the greatest. So I did fill in these little gaps here that I saw, but everything else is good. So that's what we have so far, and what I will then do is once this cures, I need to flip it over and do the top. I did do this underside edge where the cup holders are going to be. I did do that twice also, but the rest of the top I need to do. But when I flip it, I also need to round those edges, the top edges. I do want to round those, and so again, I think I'm going to use my router, but it's just so messy doing that. But it's probably the best way to do it. So anyway, there's where I am. So I flipped my motor box over, and what I did is I rounded these edges. I've got them rounded, and I think they're rounded enough that I'm comfortable with, because when the vinyl covering is put on here with some padding, it'll make a nice rounded, it'll help with the rounding anyway. And I ended up not using my router. One of the reasons why is there's a slight angle to this. If I go down like that, you can see, so this is not exact 90 degrees, and I didn't want to gouge something, and I don't know, what I did is I actually used my linear sander. I've got a Festool linear sander, and I just was going to see how well it worked. Just go along here and kind of just manually go along the edge, and it actually worked well, and also it just gives me a lot more control. I could kind of work my way up to the kind of radius that I wanted, and instead of just take a router bit and run it and that'd be it. If it was too much, then I wouldn't be able to do anything about it. If it's not enough, I'd have to get another router bit. So I did buy a router bit, but I decided to try this first. So you can kind of see, if I go down here, I rounded that edge there. Of course, that one's a little easier. And then if I come over here, go along this top edge there, you can kind of see, I don't know what radius, that might be close to 1/4 inch, 3/16, something like that. But, and I rounded this a little bit and even down this edge and that edge and that corner a little bit, and that corner. So now I'm getting ready to do is actually encapsulate the top here, and then I will need to do these edges, obviously. So it's getting there even more. I got one of the 3 holes drilled here for my cup holders. If you remember, I'm going to have 3, and so the first one here, see that sits down in there like that. So it's going to be nice, handy to have these in the back of the boat. So I'm going to mark off where these 2 go and drill away. So I'll show that here shortly. So as I was marking these 2, grab another one here. What I was about to do is make the centers of each of these. Basically, it's 17 inches to the center. So from the center of this to this edge, half of that's 8.5, so 17 inches. So I marked 8.5, but when I put these on here, if I were to make the centers basically equidistant, then you can see that these wouldn't actually look centered. I think it would look nicer, I'm glad I didn't drill them, is to have these gaps here between the edge and the edge of this cup and the edge and this cup holder. Same thing here. I think that'll look better. So that's what I'm thinking I'm going to do. I'll think on it a little bit more. So the motor box basically is done, and I've got, you can see the 3 holes for the cup holders drilled, and like I mentioned before, I went ahead and made the spacing from the edge to here to this edge and edge to edge, made all these the same instead of the center of the holes. I think it looks better. So I brought my wife out and had her look at it, because I was wondering if I might even want these 2 outer ones a little further to the edge, and she was liking them even closer in, like almost center to center, which I didn't like. So anyway, so I went ahead and did this, made these distances all the same. I think that looks the best. And so this has 2 coats of encapsulating epoxy on it, and I did round all these edges. I think I might have mentioned that before, and I just did that. Yeah, I did mention that before with my linear sander. It just gave me more control. And actually, I still need to seal the inside of these holes. Just remember that. So it's not quite done, but close. So I'll do 2 coats of encapsulating epoxy on that. But yeah, so this is what it looks like. So once I get these encapsulating epoxy done on these holes, then I'll be ready to put this thing back in the boat and get it on my way here. So yeah, so it looks good. Let me take this and kind of walk it over to the side here if I can. So you can kind of see it. Kind of a side view what it looks like. I know I've showed this before a little bit, but with it all sealed up and with the rounded edges, I think it looks really nice. Now, remember, I'm going to be covering this with vinyl and to match the seats, so this won't be showing, but still, it's looking good. So So here's the motor box, all complete now and back in the boat. And I sealed up those two cap pieces there and rounded the edges off of that. And my buddy seats are all epoxied up. Also, I don't have the hinges, I don't have the backs connected with the hinges yet, but yeah, it's neat to see it in the boat now. And I've got some work to do on the sporting parts down there, those parts that have the wedges. I've got to do some more work there, and then of course glue and seal those up. But yeah, so that sort of looks like. You can see it with the cup holders in. Now the cup holders, again, this will get covered with upholstery, but the cup holders, I'll have to figure out something underneath there to keep them from, actually they might probably be fine sitting in like that, so you can pull them out. But and you can see how the curve of the motor box matches the curve of this nicely. And this decking, it's going to have basically 3/8 inch, or is that 9 millimeter, 9 millimeters or so. And I might do a 6 millimeter and then a 4 on top of it. Well, actually, we'll see how I'm going to do that, because I don't know if I can make 9 millimeter bend. Anyway, and then it's going to get a 6 millimeter decking with the final planking of the pretty wood. And so that will have it stick up a little bit above this, and then this with the upholstery on top with a little bit of padding. It'll be close to being the same level, and that's what I was looking for. Something close. I didn't want the motor box sticking up high above that. So, and if you remember, I did raise this arc. I did make it a little more of a curve than the way it is on this front deck where the dash is, but I had to do that just because of the motor box. So there we have it.